What do you think about USADA getting replaced?
I don't know exactly what the new protocol is going to be, but I have heard that they're not going to let them take BPC 157, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
So they're adhering to like the WADA banned substance list, presumably.
Allegedly,
Yeah.
but it could be, like a little wink, a little nod. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do it, and only time will tell. I think this current administration's contract with USADA is still applicable for the next few months.
Yeah. I think USADA standard protocol is in place until January 1.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. And, that's why I'm going to turn to you to say, like, what do you think's going on here?
Yeah. I guess it depends how they document the positive test results, too, because it's like back in the day, depending on the organization, sometimes they'll publish exactly what the person popped for, what happened, what, scrutiny is happening to them in the moment, how it's being further reviewed. And it was like, very negative press even before they've actually confirmed and proved this guy cheated necessarily.
Right.
And then USADA kind of took this different angle where they would kind of be a little bit more vague about it. And then they would get some scrutiny about if they're covering up for certain people. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they were like, getting scrutiny for being hyper stringent where they'd like show up to guys' places in the middle of the fucking night when they're trying to sleep.
Yeah.
And it's a very, as far as the new organization, their level of scrutiny and how it's going to play out and how, private they're going to keep the results, it's to be determined. But if they're following the same WADA banned substance list with the same kind of protocols, I imagine it's going to be similar, but with, from what I understand, more scrutinous testing on some of the endogenous bioidenticals. So like EPO, I think Nowitzki said they're going to up their frequency of testing. Because, some of this stuff at the end of the day, there's only so much budget to allocate to where it's still a viable economic thing. So It's like, are you going to EPO test like every fucking sample of every single athlete, however many times a year? Like some people are tested like, I don't know, I forgot what Yuri was tested. It was like some insane amount of times per year. Are you going to EPO test, HGH isoform test them, carbon isotope ratio test? Are you going to do that on every sample he's ever produced?
Right.
Probably not. So you got to have some reproducible, economically viable strategy. But
I think they tested Yuri a lot because he was in recovery from shoulder surgery too.
Yeah, but then it's like, why isn't guys like, Conor getting tested out the ass?
Because he got out of the pool.
Yeah, but even when he went back in the pool, it's like...
Well, now he's testing.
How frequently, though?
Well, I don't know. They just started testing him really recently.
Guy's face definitely still looks a bit saucy.
Well, he was jacked.
Yeah.
And also, that's when you should do it.
Oh, for
when
sure.
you have something like a catastrophic leg injury, I mean, he's got rods in his legs. He's had multiple surgeries. It's not just one.
Yeah.
And then, it doesn't always heal right. And it breaks again, like Dan Hooker. He has a rod in his arm. He broke his forearm in a fight. I think it was the Jalen Turner fight. And so he had it fixed, had rods put in. He just broke it again. So now he has to have a second surgery. He has to have, they're doing some new procedure to try to get the bones to fuse because the bones didn't fuse correctly. And, the rods were the only thing holding it in place, and it snapped.
It's really weird how they justify certain compounds that can be in and out of testing, because it's like you could abuse the fuck out of amphetamines out of competition, but then you can't use BPC. Like how does that make any sense?
Doesn't make any sense. It's all bizarre. And I think in a perfect world, professional athletes would utilize everything possible to get the best possible performance.
Yeah.
Again, my only concern would be young people ruining their endocrine system.
Yeah.
And then the possible there's real issues with overuse, like overdosing. Because if you tell someone, hey, if you take, 100 milligrams of this thing, you'll have an improved performance. Okay, what's going to give me a stroke?
Yeah.
If I take 200 milligrams, what happens? Do I move twice as fast? Like, what happens?
Yeah, and some of the weight cutting will get even more extreme with diuretic use. And yeah, some of it, you'll have a lot, like kidney failures, pre-competitions.
Right. And then the question is going to be like, what kind of testing protocol are they going to use? Is it going to be random? Is it going to be something you can game? Like, I know who was the athlete that was taking those testosterone gummies and they were in and out of your system in a short period of time?
Alex Rodriguez.
There you go. He was taking a bunch of different shit. But they were taking testosterone gummies that, would only stay in your system for a few hours.
As of now, and I stay pretty on top of the literature, it's still very you can still circumvent the tests even with highest scrutiny. So, with things like test, EPO, I've seen upwards of 50% of subjects in studies getting around tests trying to find if they're doping. Like knowing that they're using guys in the study as subjects of, you're getting microdosed EPO and we're going to test you for it rigorously, and still passing even when they're trying to catch them via the study parameters. So I think a lot of people are going to be doing the same shit they've been doing. I think the scrutiny is going to be similar probably, but perhaps more like at least Nowitzki's framing it like there's more budget being allocated to some of the more rigorous tests. But I don't know. I imagine it'll be similar. But I've also heard that this organization also works with the NBA and some other pro sports, which are traditionally seen as pretty lax in contrast.
Yeah.
So
I would imagine it's going to be a little more lax, and I would support that.
yeah.
I certainly support guys taking things to recover from injuries like Conor did with his leg injury. 100%. No question about it. I'm 100% all in on that. That's the only way. No one comes back from that. No one has ever come back from that catastrophic leg break.
Yeah.
The shin break, not a single athlete has come back from it and performed at the same level.
Yeah.
Anderson Silva's the only guy who came back and fought multiple times, and he was not the same guy.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Like Conor's definitely got to win when he fucking comes back.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like his legacy is like not entirely hinged on it or anything, but I mean he's got a lot to live up to not just.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But also, if you were a coach and you wanted to look at this in terms of a long-term career strategy, I would want a tune-up fight.
Yeah.
100%. I would not want him going right in there against Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, he's still trying to go like balls deep and pick the hardest dudes.
Well, that's him. That's why he's a champion. That's why he's a warrior. I mean, he feels like he could just get. But one of the things that he said about the Dustin Poirier fight, the first one, the second fight, but the first one of the most recent ones, where he got knocked out. He said, I was inactive. He goes, it caught up to me. I could feel it. I could feel it while I was in there. My timing wasn't as good, You need to be active to be at the highest levels of world-class mixed martial arts competition. I just don't see how you can take 2 years off, multiple surgeries, get on juice, get off juice, and then jump in there against the best in the world. Maybe he can do it, but if I was his coach and the option was available, I'd say let's get someone who's not even in the top 15. Let's get some guy who is beatable but a good test. We'll call it a tune-up fight. We get to see how you perform. This guy gets an opportunity to beat Conor McGregor. You get an opportunity to test your skills again and feel the lights and feel the pressure, get your timing back, have that fight. 6 months later, you have a big fight.
Do you know when UFC 300 would be? Like that seems like a pretty big event that they would probably.
When is that supposed to be, Jamie?
April, I think.
April.
Is that too soon for him to be fighting?
Well, there's a 6-month thing in the pool, right? So here we are in November.
Contingent on USADA, though.
Yeah, and contingent on whether right. If USADA's out, maybe they don't have a 6-month thing anymore.
Oy.
Right.
Like
Good point.
I wonder if he's like obviously that's an event you would think he'd be in.
I would think you would definitely want him in that event.
Yeah.
But then the thing is, like, here's a good question. If you give someone an exemption, you let them get out of the pool, and they're taking some hardcore steroids to heal their shin break, how much gain do you maintain from that improvement in your performance? Because it's not zero.
No, it's I think a lot of it is also indirect through the time in the gym and skill acquisition, because a lot of people overlook the recovery capacity enhancing component. So it's like if you're able to, it's not just about how much muscle you've gained and objective measurements of, your bench press went up by X amount. It's also how many more hours were you able to train relative to your competition because of this.
Right.
And that's that many more hours working on X skill, this skill, that, doing your endurance, whatever. You're able to do more things and have more bandwidth allocated to your, skill, sustaining or, development. So as far as the studies go for retention of what's called myonuclei, like how much you can actually bank up from steroid use, it doesn't seem to be something that's going to sustain for, in perpetuity like we once thought. is kind of finicky if that's actually something that happens or not. Like a lot of people will still shrink back down when they come off, but he's competing pretty soon after being like what appeared to be pretty fucking full board. Like the guy was essentially unrecognizable compared to traditional, Conor.
Yeah,
So,
he looked like a light heavyweight.
yeah, it was like, to me, his face looked like the first time a guy takes gear. It's like, oh, wow, you've gained like 15 pounds of water.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Everything got big.
So, yeah, like it didn't even look like it was an attempt to do it in a, I'm trying to microdose way. It's like a real cycle, seemingly.
Right.
So, and why not if you're not being tested and you can? So,
and it's probably fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Yeah, for sure.
But the question is, like, when it comes to performance, like physical ability, strength, power, speed, you don't go back to zero. So
no, I think you would retain some of it.
Yeah, like how much of it?
That would be so speculative. So I think
Let's speculate.
Like, let's say a guy takes one cycle of testosterone at like a traditional amount that guys use, like 500 milligrams is a pretty common like bodybuilder starting level cycle.
Is that per week?
Yeah, 500 milligrams per week.
Okay.
So that's like, 3 to 3.5 times what a traditional TRT dose would be. That would gain you, a significant amount of lean mass and strength, and you would probably sustain that for, again, as the hormones work its way out of your system, even as they're residually leaving, you still have that bleed of hormone that's sustaining even during your training, subjecting yourself to, even if you had poor sleep, heavy weight cutting, like you still have synthetic drug that is bleeding out of your system and holding at least non-fluctuating values other than the bleed out time. So
Look at the size difference.
yeah, it's wild.
Look at him in 2022. He's fucking massive.
The face difference is like the most staggering to me too.
Look at his neck.
Also, weight cut. I don't know.
Yes.
How much that difference
Dude,
is,
that
but
shot with him on the
down
bottom
here,
left
Yeah.
with his arm around the dude, he
That-
looked, they cut off his quads, but his quads looked fucking nutty in that picture.
Yeah. The one where it shows him at the bottom of those 3 photographs, Jamie,
This one?
that is when he made weight for 145, though.
Oh, Skeletor, bro.
Yeah, he was literally starving himself.
That's wild.
He was starving
He looks
himself.
like one of those like Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what he looked like back then.
So, yeah, I think that, within the span of competing within a year, like you're going to retain, it would take, depending on how fast the compound would work its way to your system, depends on the ester chosen. Like I'm sure you're familiar with, your testosterone is probably a testosterone cypionate, for example. So that like determines how long it will take to metabolize out of your body. So that one has close to a 10-day half-life. So that would take 50 days essentially to clear out of your system. So for him, if you cleared out something that took 50 days to get out, like you would still have residual benefit for months thereafter, for sure. And whether it's going to be 100% or 0%, I would speculate to be somewhere in the middle, maybe.
Interesting.
You're going to lose a lot of the temporary weight fairly rapidly, though. Like a lot of that blood volume, water retention will dissipate within the first number of weeks. And then after that, you're kind of, whatever tissue you've accumulated will slowly go over the next months, which you'd probably retain, I don't know, I would say half by the time maybe 25 to 50%, but that's,